Peak human.
Les humains à leur meilleur.
Mejor manos.
Sento apogeo.
Peak 人間
Peak human? O melhor, humano?
Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Brian Sanders. This is Peak Human, the podcast where you start back at episode 1, get all the great info. Today we have a special episode. We're diving deep into regenerative agriculture. Why is it better for the land? Why is it better for you? Why is it better for your family? How does it all work? I'm talking to some producers that are out there every day on the land, improving the soil, giving a diverse diet to those animals. This one's really great. I haven't talked to the real producers who are out there working with the animals every day like these people are. We're talking to Jessica and Austin, who are beef producers, and Clay and Melissa, who are pork and chicken producers. They're using all the great methods. Jessica and Austin have been doing it on their land for over 35 years. Austin's grandfather started with the Allen Savory method, the holistic farming methods, back in the 80s. He's been regenerating the land this whole time in West Texas. He's out there many times a week moving the cattle on horseback. It's so great. I actually filmed with them because they are the nose to tail producers. That's right. You can get the meat from these people that we are talking to today, the pork, the chicken, and the beef at nosetotale.org. These are my new partners in Nose to Tail. I'm completely relaunching all the meat as of tonight. This is Wednesday, September 29th. If you are hearing this on Thursday morning, the new site is live with these new products. This is the fresh meat products, not the biltong and the body care. That stuff's the same. That stuff didn't need any improvement. That was all top notch already. I didn't think our meat products could get better, but they just did. They just did. This stuff is the next level because it's all regenerative. These people are taking the time to do the holistic management practices that bring life back to the soil and give the animals a really diverse diet. For the chicken and pork, we're changing that too. You can hear Clay and Melissa talk about all the practices they use. It's the same that Joel Salatin uses. It's a gold standard in moving the animals with the chickens each day, with the pigs every couple weeks, giving them new fresh grass, all pasture raised. And with the chicken and pork, instead of doing our old version where we were doing the high omega-3, low omega-6, we're now doing low PUFA altogether. So the information has evolved, and I've evolved, and Nose to Tail has evolved. We're not just going for a better ratio of omega-3 to omega-6. We're going for low PUFA across the board. We want low omega-3 and 6 in the diet of the chickens and pigs, and this will translate into the meat and the fat. We haven't got it tested yet, so we're not claiming this is low PUFA meat just yet, but we know that their diet is very low PUFA. It's a non-GMO, organic, soy-free, corn-free feed, but it's heavily supplemented with whole foods like skim milk we get from a neighboring farm, leftover fruit we get from neighboring farms, and all the bugs and grass that they eat. So this is the best diet you can get. I'd say the best meat you can get. But just take a listen to this one. They're so great. Both of these families are amazing. I love them so much. I've visited them a couple times each. We've had wonderful meals together. I know their family. I know their kids. I know their practices. I know everything about how these animals are raised. And now you get to know about it too. You get to know why meat raised this way is such high quality, why it regenerates the land, and how you can be a part of it. So I won't say any more. Just check out this episode and check out the site nosetotale.org to get some of your own delivered right to you. Up first, we have Jessica and Austin. Hey, we're live with Jessica and Austin. How are you guys doing over there?
Good, Brian.
Hey, Brian, we're doing good.
Awesome. You guys are over in Lubbock. I visited twice. Full disclosure, you are my new Nose to Tail beef producers. I'm not going to keep it hidden. This episode is going to be general around, information about regenerative agriculture. I love to talk to producers. And so what better producers to talk to than my new Nose to Tail people? So thank you for, being great and doing all the right things and having all the regenerative practices and being super instrumental in setting up the new Nose to Tail operation.
Thank you. We're enjoyed working with you, and we're really excited to see how this works and to get all of these products to people all across the country. It's exciting.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, you're doing it right. So We'll start with how you got started, because I know that it's been many years. It's not just something that popped up overnight.
No, not at all. Fifth generation on this ranch of my family. My granddad met Alan Savory through Holistic Management International back in the mid to late 80s. And he had always known that there had to be a better way of grazing, because he saw that the range was getting worse, the rainfall was lessening, and so when he heard what Savory had to say, it really struck a chord with him, and he started moving in that direction with his management practices, implemented planned grazing, and put all the livestock into one herd and started rotating them around, and started to see results within a couple of years, positive results on the land, and has just continued that since then. As he got a little bit older and didn't want to be as busy, he dropped the livestock number back a little bit. And so we kind of saw the recovery plateau a little bit. And then when I became involved, we started even getting the pastures smaller, the grazing more intensive, and have again seen the recovery take off and start to improve. So.
That's great. And just to let everyone know who's hiding under a rock, Alan Savory is amazing. He's been dedicating his life to holistic management and reversing desertification and, you know, the real stuff of changing the world and helping us feed people instead of the fake stuff that's out there with all the fake meat. He's been banging on about this for decades, about how we need to use grazing animals and planned holistic management, and, you know, the actual keeping them in line, doing the right things, managing them, right? Management is key. And he started with you guys in 1980, right? Is that right?
I think it was late 80. I think it was 80, somewhere between 80, 84 and 86. I'd have to ask my granddad again to get the exact, but it was mid to late 80s. So
that's right.
Yeah.
And so it must have not have been popular back then.
No, I think it was popular for a short period of time. And it's but what Savory was trying to be, from what I've told by my granddad and my uncle and some others that were there in the beginning, he always told them, this is not just some you can't just decide.
Get some flies.
It's a plan. Yeah.
Yes, there's a fly.
Sorry. It's a plan that has to be. It's an ever-evolving plan. You can't just decide, I'm going to leave the animals in this pasture for 10 days and do that the rest of the time and get this easy set thing. You have to go out several times a year and evaluate the forage in your pasture, the condition, the rainfall that you're getting, and constantly be evolving, just like nature does. Constantly be evolving your stocking rate, the speed with which you are moving through the landscape to suit the conditions at that time. And so it's definitely not, it's easier to throw the animals in a pasture, leave them there, feed them when they run out of grass. It's a simpler thing to do, but it's raining less. Our pastures are desertifying. We're growing less grass. Ranches are going out of business. I mean, so we've got to do something different, and this is the something different that we have to do. Everybody's zip code is different. There's no silver bullet. There's no pat answer to how you do this. But that's the beautiful thing about holistic planned grazing, is you take all the different factors that go into your operation, the type of lifestyle that you want, and you plug all that in and make a plan, evaluate how that's going, and continue to evolve with that plan.
Yeah, that's super important, how adaptable it is and how different it is. And I did actually have Alan Savory on this podcast, and he actually didn't get very specific because he's so interested in making sure people understand it's a philosophy, it's a management style. It's not a cookie cutter thing. And you guys let me know about how important it was in West Texas specifically, where you guys are at. And there is not a lot of rainfall, and the land is not doing well. And it's very important to use these practices specifically in this part of the country. And we're doing a lot of good by sourcing meat from you because that's where it's needed the most. Over on the East Coast, there's getting tons of rain, and it's a lot easier to do, and it's easier to get the grass growing, but not so much in West Texas.
Right. Yeah. It's there's definitely more harsh climates, but we're in a very, what you would call in holistic management, a brittle environment. Less than 20 inches of rainfall a year. Most of the time, it's more like 13 to 15, and so it's fragile, and you have to. It's great country. I love to be in it, but it's very productive if it gets a little bit of help in rain and just good management, and
That's great. And Jessica, you kind of grew up in a ranching family. What's your story?
I did. My dad's ranched my whole life and does a great job. He does things a little differently than we do now. But so I was familiar with ranching, but I wasn't very familiar with holistic management or these practices. So in being involved with Austin and his family, I've learned a lot about that and realized that there's more to the cow than just the grass that it eats, and that the soil is just as important to the whole system of things. And so taking care of the soil and being able to replenish it and regenerate that soil is crucial for the future of the operation, for our food source, and so many other things.
Yeah, and you get out there, you saddle up and get on the horseback and go help move the cattle sometimes as well. And we got some great footage of you doing that. But I know you don't do it all the time. You have 3 kids, but I think that's great.
I do. I really enjoy getting to go. And now that the kids are getting a little bit older, they get to go with us. And it's something that we want them to be a part of and be right in the middle of. And they all just absolutely love it. And so it's really fun to do as a family. And sometimes it's also just necessary that we can have all hands on deck and get things done.
It was so great. This is going to be in the Food Lies film as well. We got the little guys up on their horses. That was fun. And yeah, and then Matthew's involved as well, Austin's brother. So maybe you guys, Austin, can talk about kind of the morning routine.
Well, it's rarely the same, but we're moving cattle depending on where they're at every day or every 4 days. Just depends on the area of the ranch they're in. But at least 2 to 3 times a week, in the mornings we're saddling up, putting the horses in the trailer, and going to a different part of the ranch to move cattle. We use portable electric fencing, so we'll also be taking down or putting up fences in any given place. It allows us to be really flexible with our grazing and our time. That's something that's really nice about the portable fencing. You can choose to make an area smaller if that's what you need to do at the moment, or if you need the cattle to stay in one place a little bit longer. You can do that as well. It's just another piece of flexibility that's really nice, part of the operation. And so yeah, we're always moving cattle around, putting up fence, taking it down, evaluating the grass, looking ahead to see where we're at, and if our stocking rate's correct. And that's day in, day out the main concern on the ranch, and then just other endless odd jobs that come with maintaining the property.
Oh, I bet. Tell us more about how you make the decisions on the stocking rates, and when is it time to move cattle, or even the grazing plan. The grazing plan is behind you. It's some aerial footage of your whole property, and you kind of have it marked out by sections. But yeah, let people know how it works.
Okay, so we make two plans a year: a growing season plan and a non-growing season plan. So summer and winter, basically. So we're just starting our non-growing plan right now, and as fall is coming, we're going to be approaching a freeze pretty soon, and so we pretty much are going to go out in the pasture and we step off an area that is large enough to feed a cow for a day. And you do that in lots of different areas in the ranch. So we have pretty diverse soils. We have really heavy clay, tight soils, rocky soils, and then very sandy soils here on the ranch. So everywhere's different. We're going to drive around and step that off. And so we take that area and we step it off in yards and figure out how much in that pasture it's going to take to feed one animal unit for a day. And then you put that into a formula and come up with stock days per acre, plug that into the acreage that you have, figure out how long you're going to be where. And it takes a little bit of time to do it. It takes knowledge of not just, you have to, in that square, not say, yeah, it looks like there's enough stuff in here. You have to know, is it, very palatable grasses for the cattle like Sido's grama or silver blue stem or vine mesquite, or is it just mostly low quality forage? So you have to take all these different factors into account and come up with a plan, stock days per acre, and plug that all in and figure out how long you're going to be where. And you also want to leave a drought reserve, so if you don't get your expected rainfall, you have that to fall back on. So, and then we also keep up with the amount of rainfall we have, and it's stock days per acre per inch of rainfall, and that can sort of give you an idea of, if you haven't gotten rainfall on a certain date, you know that you're going to need to start thinking about taking some destocking a little bit, reducing the numbers, or in the better case scenario, if it's raining a lot, you'll want to add numbers so that you can utilize that extra grass. And also the more hooves we can get on the ground in a smaller area, it's breaking up soil capping and getting a more even graze on the landscape, which what we're trying to emulate is when there was large herds of bison in this area. Their large ruminants moving across the landscape is what built the rolling plains and the Llano Estacado in this area, the great grasslands that used to be present in this area before they were, a lot of them were plowed under or overgrazed. And so that's what we're aiming to get back to. The soil can be so much healthier than it is. It can hold water like a sponge if it's healthy. And we've spent 150 years sort of unintentionally doing it not the best way. And I think the reversal can happen faster than that, but it's not an overnight process.
Yeah, we need to, we're getting the information out there about this reversal process, and I just had Bobby Gill on as well. So he was part of right before we visited you, we filmed with him, and we actually filmed and visited the tall grass prairie up in the Tulsa area, which was really cool. So we got to see what you're talking about, the product of the bison, the millions of bison up there doing their thing, fertile soil, so deep, feet and feet and feet of great soil, and just the crazy root structure. And these tall grasses were, up to 8 feet high, and the root structure could go down 8 feet. And now what you're saying, the last 150 years, we're using all these conventional practices, the plows and all this stuff, and we've destroyed it all. And now people like you are trying to get it back.
Right.
Well, I'm glad you're doing it. Maybe let's jump quickly to Jessica. I want to hear more about your family, your mom. There's a lot of people listening that may still be afraid of eating a lot of red meat. You know, maybe they bought into the guidelines and all the government propaganda and the vegan propaganda out there. As a mom, are you afraid to feed your kids red meat? Are you afraid to eat it yourself often?
I am not afraid to feed my kids red meat. We have beef at least 6 days a week, and usually at least 2 meals on those days. So it really helps to know where it comes from. I mean, when you can trust the producer and you can trust that the animal is raised well, there should be no doubt in the quality of the product. And I think part of what we're missing is the nutrition in beef is huge. It's got so many nutrients for us, and the quality of the soil plays a big part in that. So that's one of the things that we're working together, is to really improve the quality of the soil, so then that the quality of the animal and the beef is better and better. And things like liver and some of the organ meats and other parts of the animal, the bones, they're so nutrient dense, and being able to take that and incorporate that into our diets has been huge. We eat a pretty whole food diet at our house. We don't do much processed foods. We don't do a lot of packaged items. So most things are home cooked, but that doesn't mean that it has to be really hard or doesn't have to be elaborate. It just takes a little bit of time and a little bit of planning, but the health of our kids is worth it for us to take the extra time to cook our own meals and prepare our own food, because our kids are healthy, they are active, and you can see that, or I may be a little biased because I'm pretty proud of the kids, but they're healthy kids. And, you know, we just actually had a stomach bug in our family the last week, and it lasted a day. Each kid passed it on to each other. And
Less than a day.
all of our, it was about 12 hours of throwing up once, maybe twice. And then within 12 hours, they were back to normal, ready to eat and go and run full force. And I know it's been going around school. It's been going around town. So I'm not surprised that we got it, but we bounced back a lot quicker than I think others have, or that we would have if we weren't providing our bodies with nutrient-dense foods. And a big part of that is red meat for us.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, multiple meals per day. That's what it's all about. And yes, they are super healthy. I can tell that they're different than normal kids. And what else are you guys eating? I know you kind of follow a Weston Price type of diet, and I love Weston Price and all the information and proper preparation of things. If you're going to make bread, make it yourself and do it the right way.
Yes. So the kids also have some chickens. So we raise our own eggs. We do a lot of eggs in our diet. And then, like you said, we're doing as many vegetables and locally sourced vegetables and fruits as we can. Fresh in season is really important. And then we did just recently start milling our own grains. So for a long time, we didn't do any grains at all in our house. And we did see a big improvement in our health when we cut out grains completely. And then we've recently just kind of dived back into incorporating some whole grains. And that's a whole nother rabbit hole that we won't go down, but just knowing that the whole grain in its full form, when it's freshly milled, is actually good for us. And having to shift our minds to that has been interesting. But so, yes, we are making our own breads if we have bread. And just trying to do local produce too, so that we can get, even our honey, we try to get from some of the bee farms around here so that it helps our allergies. And there's just so many benefits when you can get produce, meat, whatever it is, from somebody that you know and from somebody within your region.
Your zip code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have, we would get tired of beef probably every single meal. So we have friends that we know that raise chickens and pork, and we know other people that are doing other lamb, things like that. And so we traded beef and bought other products and things like that from others so that we can have some other quality products rotating through our menu as well. But the main focus is just that we're eating whole food and getting all the nutrients that we can from our diet, and not just getting full.
Yeah. Well, for lunch yesterday,
I love it. And what are the boys' favorite? Sorry, keep going, and
No,
and you can work in what the boys' favorite meal is.
Well, this is one of them. Yesterday we had a small set of calves that needed to be branded, and there was bull calves in there that needed to be castrated. So the boys were helping with that, and we went straight from the pen after we cleaned everything up and turned the cattle out to the house, cleaned those calf fries, the testicles off the bulls, and fried them up in the pan, and the boys were eating them about an hour and a half after they were removed from the animal. So that's actually one of their favorite things to eat. Watson's, our oldest son, is beef cheek is one of his favorite things to eat. What am I missing?
Well, they stand around and want the fat.
Yeah, steak fat.
Anytime we have fat, whether it's off a roast or a steak or anything else, they just beg for the fat off the meat, and they enjoy being part of it. And I think that there's a pride that they have that they help with the animal, and that they know where the animal came from, and that they get to see the animal from birth to plate, if you will. Just that they get to know where it comes from, and they're part of the whole process. They've gone with us to take them to the butcher. They've seen what happens at the butcher, and they see that it's a respectful process, and that it's nothing to be afraid of or discouraged by, but that it's, that we work hard day in and day out to then have a product that we can enjoy as a family, and that food brings people together, and it needs to be good food. So we enjoy feeding others and sharing our meals with other people, and our kids have really jumped in to join in with us on that, and love sharing just our passion for food and our passion for good food. And we just happen to also have the opportunity to raise it as well as enjoy it.
Yeah, and kids are just so naturally honest. They're connected to their food source, and someone that would say that people that eat animals don't care about animals, that's not at all true. And I see it in my boys every day. They love these animals, and they care about what happens to them. They are excited about taking care of them, but they also love to consume them, and they understand where their food comes from, and they value that already at a young age.
That's really great. How old are they?
6, 3, and 1.
Yeah, there's a little girl as well.
So it's a very striking difference between the vegans in the city who don't have the connection to the food and families like yours that do understand it.
Yeah, there is. And I think that that's part of the problem with a lot of what's going on in our world today, is that we're so disconnected from reality, really. I mean, we've gotten so many, we're so far removed to know that, I don't know that many people know where their food actually comes from. And there's so many videos and, things that have been out there, and in some places, yes, there is animal cruelty, and there are ways that animals are treated poorly, and that's not at all okay. And so when that's what's being seen, when that's the impression that people have, I could see where they're coming from on a lot of things. But I think one of the biggest things that we've really wanted to do is to educate people on how cattle are raised. Most cattle, even feedlot cattle, spend a lot of time not in a feedlot, and it's not all bad. So
and the people that raise them do care about them. They may need to, in our opinion, adjust some management practices. But yeah, the narrative of cruelty is false for the most part.
Agreed. And I think that, so one of the things that we've been doing is having field days here to encourage school kids, mostly homeschool groups, to come out and see the ranch, see the cattle, see how we handle them, and understand the importance of soil health and regenerating that, and understanding that even if you're in town, even if you live on the 5th floor of an apartment building, you too can help by supporting ranches and producers all over the country that are raising animals with the intent of regenerating the land. So using those regenerative practices, your dollars are your votes, and your dollars go to support that and allow them to continue doing what they're doing. So not necessarily to find us, but find someone local and know the producer that you buy your beef from, and know the producer, you know, just like knowing where it comes from allows you so much peace of mind, but it also encourages that producer to keep going. And I think that's a cool thing about Nose to Tail, is that the reach is so much farther now that we're able to partner with you guys and send beef so much farther than just right here in our area code. It's really awesome.
Well, that's great. I'm very appreciative of you guys. I'm so glad I found you, because you guys are doing the right thing. And I have another question about the diet. You're talking about healthy soil and healthy cows and all that, and the difference between geography and what you have to work with. So I'm not trying to put down, say, up in the Northeast where it's super rainy and they can just eat grass all the time. But what are the benefits of the diverse diet that you have on your land?
Well, there's a benefit in the nutrients that they're getting out of the soil. There's forbs, legumes. There's all sorts of different plants out there that are working together through mycorrhizal fungi. That pipeline that a deep-rooted plant can help a shallow-rooted plant, something with a taproot. So they don't just eat grass. To say they're grass-fed is I guess, an inevitable simplification, but they're eating Mormon's tea, which is ephedra. It's a woody plant. They eat a lot of weeds that people would consider weeds are excellent feed sources that are very high in protein. In the wintertime, they eat sand sage. That's a great protein source. So it's a nutrient benefit to have the diversity, and a flavor benefit, I believe, in the beef. And then you even get seasonal differences in the taste, which is something that's been lost when all the animals are just eating a generic diet over and over again. So I think there's a lot of definite health benefits, flavor benefits, and benefits to just the animal itself. I mean, they are moving across, like I said, they're going from rocky soils to sandy soils, river bottoms to hilltops, and just constantly their diet is always changing, and they're getting a new buffet every day or every couple of days, something different. A lot of the same things, but a lot of different things. Sometimes they eat a little bit of prickly pear too. I mean, they try everything. Mesquite leaves, lots of different food sources out there, and they go after them all. There's a plant that we've been noticing that I have not seen them eating in the past. It's called a gourd. It's thought to be a noxious weed, and it grows this little melon on the end of it. And it's been difficult to move them out of some of the pastures because they're running back once we start driving them away to eat more of this vine that most people would spray and try to get rid of. So they know what they need to eat, and the diversity out there. As humans, we like to make things really linear. It's easy for us to understand, but that's not the way nature works. Nature is diversity and chaos in a lot of ways, and that's what they need. They need that diversity in their diet to thrive and be healthy and have the kind of all the nutrients in that beef.
That's so true. We keep bringing up Fred Provenza. Fred Provenza does some of these studies that shows that animals have these instincts and shows why they eat all these variety of plants and how they do know what's best for them, because if they don't get access to the right ones, they can get sick or develop deficiencies. And so he's done a lot of studies with some other people. It's come up on my podcast a lot. And it's just like humans too. I mean, our hunter-gatherer ancestors, or all the people that came before us, they were just moving across the land, eating what they had. It was always different, seasonal. They always found new protein sources and had a variety of things, and it kind of squares away all your nutrients. And animals are just the same. So that's why I didn't want to put down other operations, but it's just kind of, I guess, just showing how it can be different and it can be better even. And yeah, like you even said, the taste. Your guys' meat is so tasty. I'm so glad that I found you. I got those beef cheeks. I got Watson's favorite beef cheeks for dinner when I was over there. So much collagenous parts, you know, like when it goes in the fridge the next day, we had some leftovers and it was thick like Jello. That's how you know it's good. The flavor is so rich. Oh man, so delicious. But it comes from that diverse diet you're talking about and a diverse land. And man, it really was like Rocky. It's all over the place. We were tromping around there with my film crew. I had my drone. I was, you know, getting the drone stuck in trees and, you know, tall grass, and it was crazy out there. It was so fun though. We'll get some footage together. Actually, I'm making some videos. Hopefully they'll be up soon about your land and your process, and seeing you out there on the horseback, rounding them up. So cool. They got stuck by the river. Did they ever make it across the river?
Yeah, they did. They finally, their mothers went back across and picked them all up, and we're just fine. They just got a little confused for a while. The river was running so high, and those calves were pretty intimidated by it. So took them a little while, but they made it.
Well, that's great.
Something
awesome.
else.
Well, I go for it.
Well, I thought we might want to hit on that. You know, there a lot of people when they hear grass finished or grass fed meat don't think of, well, they either think of a bad flavor because they've had a bad experience and they think it will be extremely lean, and it is leaner than beef from a feed yard, but genetically, the type of cattle you're eating matters as well. You know, we don't babysit these cattle. They have to. We make sure that we plan our grazing in such a way that they're going to have a nutritious diet in front of them. But as far as they don't get any supplementary feed, even in the severe winter storm we had last year or earlier this year, I think we did put out a little bit of hay, but it was a very small amount. So they have to make it on the landscape. And if they can't, we remove them from the herd. And after quite a few years of that sort of selection, the animals that are adapted to this environment are the ones that we have. And they can thrive on what's here, and they can put fat away on their body on what's here. And so the ribeyes do have fat in them, and it's not a tasteless, mushy white fat. It's a very kind of rich yellow fat that has a lot of flavor and a lot of nutrients to it. And so I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what grass finished meat is.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, maybe people just haven't had the good stuff yet. And I love that natural selection type of thing where you're not forcefully keeping them dependent on feed or something like that. It's that you're finding through your process of just letting them do their cattle thing is they select themselves out for the best genetics.
Absolutely.
And I will just add that because of how the land has been managed for so long, the soil health has been depleted. And so some of the minerals or nutrients aren't there. So one of the things that we are working on is to put out minerals for the cattle so that they are getting add the minerals. And then as that goes through their body and it's excreted back, it goes back into the soil. So that's another way that the minerals are then picked up in through the plants and available to the animals through their diet as we're replenishing those minerals over time in the herd. And that mineral feeder that we have moves with the cattle so that it's being moved and used across the ranch so that all pastures and all parts of the ranch are getting that mineral put back in over time so that that's also being increase and restored over time.
That's great because, yes, the land was not always managed this way. It was improperly managed for hundreds of years before Grandpa Ham got involved. And so now we got to start getting the minerals back. And I like it that they get to choose, too. The cattle just can pick and choose, and they know what minerals they need. It's not like you're just force-feeding them some type of supplement. It's just, since the soil has been mismanaged, you leave options for them, and they choose.
Yes, and we're also putting out a volcanic clay. It's called a montmorillonite clay. I don't know if we visited about this when you were here, but we've started putting that out with the mineral, and they eat that, and that it absorbs toxins out of their body and allows them to excrete them. So, we're the way we're practicing it, that's all well and good, but we have neighbors and we have farmers around us and spray planes flying around. So we're also trying to manage and be concerned about the neighbors' toxins that are blowing over on us and making sure that we're doing everything we can on the land to make sure that it's a nutrient-dense, toxin-free beef. And then the things that are out of our control, those toxins that may be coming in, we're also adding that montmorillonite clay in there so that it can help those cattle excrete anything that they get that's out of our control.
All right. I like it. Basically, I don't know how it can be done better than what you guys are doing. Last question here is, people always ask, can this be done at scale, or do we have enough land, or all those type of questions. And I think we've got tons of land. We just have a ton of mismanaged land. But I want to hear your take on, is this profitable even? Like, can we do this at a bigger scale? Can more people get involved in this?
Yes, it's absolutely profitable. You have to, the one thing that you need if you're going to graze like this is a water source. And when you put that many animals in one herd, a cow can drink on a hot summer day 40 gallons of water. Typically they're going to drink 25 to 30, so it's a big water demand, but water can be piped in. Those are all things that can be overcome. As far as land, there's so much land that's not being utilized, not even talking about grazing it properly or improperly. There's tons of land that's not being grazed. And you can think of some of the worst management and overgrazed property, and if that were to have the cattle pulled off of it and get a good rain on it, it would bounce back quicker than something that had not been grazed by a large ruminant in 20 years. So undergrazing is just as bad, if not worse, than overgrazing. Go take a look at a national park sometime where the cattle are not allowed. I guarantee you, if you find a good clump grass, you can go kick it out of the ground with the toe of your boot. I mean, the root system, that plant will be oxidized. They need each other. Everything is connected, and those grass plants need to be grazed to be healthy and to stimulate their growth. So, to answer your question, there's plenty of land. It's just like what Alan Savory was trying to accomplish. It's not some set system or set plan. It's a way of thinking, and if you can change the way that you think about it, and we have plenty of land to feed ourselves without feed yards easily, and we need to stop worrying so much about beating this drum of feeding the world and worry about feeding the communities around us. There's plenty of land in the world. We just need some knowledge and improved management out there.
I'm so glad you brought that up. That's what I've been saying for a while because I got kind of tipped off by Dr. Gary Fettke from Australia, who was saying to feed the world, you need to feed your community. If you're feeding your community, you by default you will feed the world someday. If each community is feeding themselves, then you are feeding the world. So that's where you need to focus. You can't just drop off sacks of grain in Africa. That's not ever going to work. Never, never. You have to have each community feed itself. That's what you guys are doing. I actually do have one more question, more towards Jessica. Well, I love that both of you guys are really clued in. People might know what I'm talking about. People have woken up. Everyone I find in this health community is tuned in. They're awake. They understand how the world works. And I love that you two are very tuned in. And you're talking about homeschool, getting the kids out there, understanding how the world really works, getting on the ranch, introducing them to how animals are raised and all the right things. So, yeah, I just want to I don't know if you have anything to say about immune health, about just raising children, about raising your family in a more ancestral way, a more in tune with nature, how humans are supposed to be raised and all that kind of thing.
I think we make it too hard. I think it really is. We need to get back to the basics and just enjoy our kids and allow our kids to enjoy their childhood. And that is feed them good food and nourish their bodies, and then they'll be able to do so many things. And so whether that's, and it doesn't have to be all or none. You can do what you can do, and you have to give yourself grace in that, and being able to do little bits at a time and make progress is huge. We didn't always mill our own grains or raise our own chickens or any of those things. We've had to gradually adjust and take one more bite at a time and one more bite at a time. And over the years, we've made progress and we've seen the benefits. And so being at peace and being okay with where you're at is huge, with the intent of always getting better. And so I think that other moms and dads out there that are wanting to, provide health for their family, well, figure out what that looks like for you as the first step. And then when you get good at that, then try something else. And so if it's just finding a local meat source, start there. Or if it's
buying some nose to tail.
Yes, order from nose to tail. But if you just being intentional, I think is something that we've lost, and just making conscious efforts into what we're doing and making sure that what we are doing serves a purpose. And so if you want to send your kid to public school and you're okay with that, great. We do. We may homeschool at some point, but right now we're okay with where we're at. And so we make our time at home a lot more intentional. And so just knowing that wherever you are is okay. We don't all have to do it the same. And I think that's the beauty of it. And that's the greatest thing about living where we live, is we have the freedom for now to choose what we want for our families and how we raise our families. And so making those conscious efforts to provide health for them in whatever way you see fit, chase after that and do it wholeheartedly, and know that you're serving your family well by doing that.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, guys. If you're listening to this, that means we've relaunched. It's September 30th. The new website should be up with all of the great products, the great beef that you provide. And actually, I'm going to interview the Trotters, who are our pork and chicken people that are your friends down the street, that have the pasture-raised chicken and pigs and doing all the right things over there. So we're going to have them come up next on this podcast. And yeah, thanks for being part of Nose to Tail. And man, I'm so excited about the future.
We can't wait to see what happens, and we're honored to be a part of it.
We very much are. Thank you.
All right. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Hey, we got Clay and Melissa. How are you doing over there?
Hey, how's it going?
I am great. I'm looking forward to talking about some pigs and chickens. You guys are the Nose to Tail pork and chicken producers, and I'd love to know how you got started in this to start us all off.
Sure. So we initially got started raising chickens, and we had a hard time finding some pasture-raised chickens at the time that we wanted to obtain them. And so we kind of looked at each other and we said, well, we're having a hard time with this. Why don't we just do it ourselves? And so we did. And then about a year later, we started looking at other ways to put, meat into the freezer. And so we got started with pork and raising pork on pasture. And we really enjoyed it. And then got linked up with you, Brian, and we raised a lot more of it. And so it was it's been a good experience for us out here at our place.
That's great. I think a lot of people, when they scratch their own itch, that's the impetus to get going on things that are, especially things that are important to you, like nutrition. We're like, hey, how do I get the best quality meat to my family? Why don't I just do it myself?
Yes.
And we're really passionate about the holistic approach, not just, having good food, but having a good environment, having a good life, having good genetics, having good, just the holistic aspect of the food that we're eating also. And, when we were looking around, especially at the grocery store, that just was not an option. And so, we're also passionate about kind of knowing your grower, knowing where the food comes from, and getting to heal, the land and getting to heal the soil along the way. So we were just passionate about the whole aspect of it. So yeah, kind of fun.
Well, it's great. Yeah, I took some video at your place and visited twice, and we can show some of that to show how you guys are regenerating the land, moving the chickens and pigs each day. The chickens each day and the pigs every, a month?
It's about every 12 days.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we move them pretty regularly, so they get a fresh paddock about every 12 to 14 days.
Oh, wow.
They have a pretty good sized paddock, and so they get to express their genetics and express kind of who they are, in that paddock, and then we move them to the next one, and so they can do the same thing and disturb the land, regenerate the soil. That's our ultimate goal. We want to build that soil back up. Healthy soil makes healthy animals make healthy people. And so that's the biggest thing for us. We want the building block to be good soil.
That's great. And I think I said a month because I came back a month later and saw them moved, and you could see how amazing the difference was. So pigs, you can actually take it down pretty low. With cows, you'd want to just disturb the grasses and eat it just enough so you don't overgraze it and then move on. But with the pigs, the pen area was taken down a lot, and then when I came back, it was grown back like crazy, greener grass, just full of life.
Yeah,
full of life. Yeah, teeming with life, and that just kind of goes back to just regenerating that soil, getting it back to where we can build more soil, get that dark green grass. Because you can see, you can look in the pasture where either pigs or chickens have been and where they haven't been. The grass will be, a lighter color where they haven't been. But once you disturb it, you add, good quality manure and all that stuff. It just comes back with a vengeance. It seems like, it's just super green and beautiful. And, we've had a great year this year with some good rain, and so man, it's been a fantastic year.
Well, and the beautiful synergy of each individual gifting of each animal and how it disturbs the land is what's really just breathtaking to watch. You've got the chickens that do that, topsoil, they just kind of scratch away. They have their manure that offers different benefits to the land. And then you have cows that their hooves are larger and they disturb it differently. And then you have pigs that really focus on that deep seed bedding. And so just to see the disturbance and that synergy come together, their manure offers different benefits to the land too.
Sure.
And so then to offer even just like the chickens coming behind the pigs or the chickens behind the cows. And so even just to see that makeup and to see how the seed bedding is affected and the growth is benefited from that too. So that's pretty neat.
It really is. And I know you guys are fans of Joel Salatin, as I am. And yeah, you were kind of alluding to the pigness of a pig, and you let them do their thing. And
Yes.
I know you use the same type of mobile chicken houses. What are they called? Some chicken tractors, whatever they're called.
Tractors. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, maybe you can just tell us more. But yeah, using the different animals, and you can rotate them around, and they can cover the same land and all that.
Absolutely. Yeah, chickens are pretty fantastic. You know, we move them every day in the chicken tractors. They get fresh water, fresh access to grass, bugs, everything that the pasture has to offer. And then we get to reap the benefits because, you know, they'll drop around 200 pounds of nitrogen in a day. And I mean, that just really helps the soil. And once the soil digests all of that, man, it's good for the soil and can just regenerate that soil, make it better.
Well, and getting to see, like when we open the gate for the pigs to go to their new paddock, I mean, they are like kids in a playground. They just like swarm it. They're rolling in it. They're just living the best life. And it's same with the chickens. Every morning we go out, they follow the sun, they move with us, you know, as we move towards the sun. And it's just a beautiful gift to give them the life that's intended for them. The sunshine, the fresh grass, the bugs, the fresh air, and the fresh sunshine, plus, you know, shade, protection from the elements. And so they really get the full exposure, and they get to live that out without that, you know, confinement. So then they get the exposure to the sunlight, which is also benefiting their immune system. They're just everything that gives us the best product, the best food that we can ask for. So pretty, plus, of course, we provide them the best food. So we've done a lot of research and partnered and made sure that we've got the organic, we've got no corn, no soy. We've got just that best food that they're intaking, plus the best environment. So it's a neat process to get to see them be their fullest, healthiest self.
You know, one of the things that I've been super surprised with this year, raising the amount of pigs that we have, is, you know, once you move their feeder and they move to a different paddock, they could care less about the feeder for about 24 hours. They're all about the grass. They're all about whatever's in that pasture. They're all about eating that. Even yucca, you know, they chow down on yucca plants, which I'm super surprised by. You know, they love that stuff. So super strange, but awesome.
I don't know much about yucca, but I know that I didn't know that pigs would eat the grass and stuff. I thought they were just all about, you know, whatever just leftover food they could get.
Sure. Yeah, they're foragers, you know, and that surprises a lot of people, and it surprised me, you know, even, you know, watching them and everything. But they will eat the grass, and they love it. And weeds too. I mean, you know, what we consider weeds, they chow down.
Well,
you know?
And talking on that, the beautiful aspect of a pig is they will literally eat anything. And so something that has been really fun on our end is we are about 10 minutes from a local raw dairy anyways. And so we've actually partnered with him because he has the same vision as far as regenerative and healthy food and all of that. And we actually get to use his skim milk that is otherwise being thrown out. So we get to utilize his amazing product and ferment our high quality food that we're already purchasing. So we ferment it. Then the pigs, I mean, it is like a heyday when we get to feed them that fermented feed. They roll in it. They just love the food. So it hydrates them. It boosts their immune system. It just it enhances the flavor of their meat when we eat it. And then we've also been able to partner with other farmers and gardeners just around us, local homes, to take off their scrap food, their vegetables, their fruits that they have left over. And instead of just being thrown out and wasted, we take the excess and feed it to our pigs also. And so they just get a smorgasbord of incredible flavors and food, which also then benefits us as the consumers to have a better flavor product.
I love this. This is why we're doing this. You're kind of talking about pigs as they are very similar to humans in their digestive system and their bodies and their metabolism. And you're talking about a good diet that a human would have, and that's what you're giving to the pigs. Instead of keeping them in some warehouse, keeping them out of the sun, they're out in the sun. They need vitamin D. They're getting the sun,
Absolutely.
The vitamin D, and getting more D in their meat when we eat their pigs. That's what a healthy pig has, a good vitamin D level. and it's good for them, good for us. I love that too, the creamery too, so that the raw dairy producer only needs the cream, so they don't need the skim. So you take the skim, that's more protein, extra protein, quality source of protein. And tell me a little bit more about the fermentation.
So what we do is we take the milk, the skim milk, and then we will add, about a 1-to-1 ratio. So it's about 2.5 gallons of milk, and then we'll do a 2.5 gallon, or about 2.5 gallons of feed, and then we'll stir that around, let it sit for a day or two, and what that does is it ferments. So it opens up a lot of the grain and different things that they're eating, the peas and different things, and it just allows them to kind of open up all that good stuff in that food and be readily available to those pigs when they eat the fermented feed.
Well, and just like us as humans, like I seek to try to get fermented feed in my diet as often as possible, just for digestive support, enzymes, whatever. And so it has and offers the same benefits for them so that they can receive more of the nutrients that they're intended to receive. And then kind of the other aspect as far as their paddock and everything, they are fully exposed to vitamin D, fully exposed to outdoors, all the air, and then they have the option of the shade being from the trees, and then the soil that they're continually connected with. So they have that grounding, that just the full element of all of that, which also
The
enhances the
microbiome.
ability to better process their food.
The microbiome even, right? We're talking about the microbiome of humans. And
Yes, absolutely.
It's so great. The feed is like organic, non-GMO, no corn, no soy, and so it has to be based on something. And pigs are omnivores. They need the like carbs and fats and proteins just like humans do. Well, people will argue that you don't need carbs, which is true. You don't need carbs. You can make your own glucose in your body, but still. Sure. So they get a lot of it. So it's kind of from peas. So it's a good source of peas and some like sort of good grains. We're trying to get a low PUFA. This is what we're trying to do. Okay, so I'll start here. We're trying to get a low PUFA diet for these hogs and chickens, and we want the meat to be low PUFA. And so we're not going to make any claims yet on the linoleic acid status of the meat, or testing the omega-3, omega-6s, all that type of stuff. But previously in Nose to Tail, we were trying to give them a high omega-3 feed that would just push the ratio of omega-6s down. And that was great. And then I kind of learned more about human diet and that maybe we just want low PUFA altogether. So that's, it's been months and months of us starting this process together, but we started on this journey to make sure we could get the lowest PUFA feed. And that's why the leftover fruits and vegetables, that's another good source of low PUFA nutrition. The skim milk, of course, no real PUFAs there. And the feed, right, getting the corn and the soy out of it really helps that. But I'm just going to be transparent with the audience. We don't know the exact content of the food yet, the pork yet, right? We have to do the test. So it's going to take some time. We just butchered very recently, right? So if you're listening to this live, we butchered, twice. I guess chicken was pigs both times or chickens twice and pigs once.
We've done two chicken butchers and then two pig butchers as well. So
and that was all in the last 2 weeks, and so this meat is ready to go out to people. So we had no time to do the tests, all that stuff, but we're gonna get that done. But we'll call it assumably low PUFA pork and low PUFA chicken, assumably low, based on the diet.
Absolutely.
Great. And back to chickens. So we want the same thing with the chickens. We want that low PUFA content. And I just want to give people a visual of these tractors. I think it's about 12 foot by 12 foot. It's kind of made of wire mesh and wood. And they have access to sun always, but they also have access to shade. So, and they also, it's only on the top, right? So it's hard to explain, I guess, if you haven't seen one of these. You can look it up online, and they're on grass. They're completely on grass, and they just have this top shelter kind of placed over them so they don't get eaten by coyotes.
Right, yeah. Yes.
But yeah, maybe you can explain a little more just how we do the chicken and just how that shelter works.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's mainly if you think of a square, so 3 out of the 4 squares on top is metal, and then one is a wire mesh, just a chicken wire on top, and then on the sides and everything, it's pretty much all wire mesh with just about a 6 foot on each side. It's got metal, and that allows them to completely get out of the elements. So let's say if we get a good rain or something like that, they can get out of the elements and then out of the wind and different things like that as well. So we face them to the east, so we're always moving toward the sun because chickens like to move toward light. And then so we move them every morning. We moved them this morning right about sunup, and so they got fresh feed, fresh water, fresh grass, and so it's just a square wooden metal, and then it has mesh on it, and we just drag it along the ground with a kind of a hand dolly, and we just move it every 12 feet, 10 or 12 feet every day, and so they get fresh grass, and I love to watch them first thing in the morning. It's like my absolute favorite thing, because once we move them, they furiously attack the grass. That's the first thing they want. They don't care about feed. They want that green grass, and so they're absolutely attacking the grass. And so it's rich in chlorophyll and all the other good detoxifying agents that grass has, and so they're attacking that grass. And then any bugs that happen to come along, they unfortunately the chickens eat them. If they wander into a chicken tractor, it's on them. And so. The chicken tractors take advantage, or the chickens take advantage of that, and so they have fresh water obviously throughout the day, and we refill that. In the Texas heat, we want to make sure that they have plenty of water. We're cooling off a little bit down here, but it's still pretty warm. So.
Well, and for me personally, when I think of being a good steward of animals, that the keeping them caged in, if you will, the intention that we move forward with there is we have predators that we have to consider to protect them. And so it is wonderful to be able to provide them safety within that 12 foot by 12 foot while allowing them to have the freedom of the experience of the land and all that has to offer. And then we also have the ability to expose them to the elements, the wind or whatever, while also offering them the protection. And so that's what kind of this chicken tractors provides them, so we can be good stewards of the animals to provide them the most natural life that they can have. Because if they're fully free range, my gosh, they're going to have predators, they're going to be exposed to so much. And so this just allows them to live the life that is best for them, to where they can experience all that without having the threats of the predators and elements and stuff.
They have plenty of space. There's plenty of space per bird. So they have plenty of space to walk around in that whole thing. And then it allows us also the chicken tractors allow us to, kind of going back to the soil, allows us to regenerate that soil and do the best job. Because chickens will, if given too long on a piece of ground, they'll take it down past the dirt, really. And so that's not what we want. We want to leave some of that grass there. That's why they get moved every single day. And so they get moved to a fresh stand of grass, so they can eat that grass and leave the other grass alone. So that grass has time to regrow and digest all the manure that's been dumped upon it.
Yeah, and this is sort of the gold standard of regenerative chicken agriculture, and this is stuff that like Joel Soutzen, like we mentioned, has been doing this, developing. Well, a lot of other people too that are less well known have been developing these methods for years and years, and
sure.
It works out well. It's kind of like with the cows, right? We talk about the cattle with Jessica and Austin, and that they have a grazing plan, and they rope them off and they move them every couple days or every day or every 3 days, depending on the plan. And that helps them graze for the appropriate amount of time. Same thing with chickens. If you just had them free range everywhere, I mean, it looks nicer in a photo, maybe, but they're just going to be eating everything, and they could overgraze, they could undergraze, they could choose only choose certain things that they want and leave the others, and then you have this imbalance. So it really makes sense is why you want to do it this way. And how long between when we come back around with the chickens to the same plot of land, the same square?
So we try not to touch. If we pull chicken tractors through that, we try not to touch that again for the year. So we run chicken tractors on different places throughout the farm. So we don't want to touch that, because chicken manure is hot. it's considered a hot manure, and so it's very, very rich in nitrogen, which is why they call it hot. And so we don't want to touch that more than once. And so we'll run chicken tractors on different places so that they don't touch that more than once. Now, other animals can come through later after the soil's been digested, but we want to make sure that we give it ample amount of time to rest.
Well, that's great. I mean, I think that's the same thing with cattle. It depends on the area and how much rainfall you get. But I think that with Austin and Jessica, you have a big property and you do the whole plan and you come back around the next year. And I talked about with Austin and Jessica about West Texas being especially important to do this regenerative ag on because there's not as much rain. It's sort of a drier climate.
It is. We have a very arid climate out here, and so we want to take advantage of all the rain that we get, and then we obviously we want to regenerate that soil so that it has the ability to soak up as much rain as possible, and that's the ultimate goal. When you're talking about regenerative agriculture, you're talking about rain capture instead of runoff. And then here in West Texas, we can, if the soil is not properly taken care of, we can get compaction where the water really more runs off rather than soaks into the soil and is digested by the soil and helps the soil do great things. So we want to make sure that we use the animals and let them express themselves 100%. So that that water will stay in the soil instead of run off and evaporate.
Exactly. You don't want that capped soil. I've seen some videos online. You could show the difference between regenerative land and the land next to it that was done conventionally, and all of this mud was just roaring into the river. All the land was being stripped of the soil, and in the regenerative, it was soaking it all up.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the ultimate goal for us. The longer that we do this, the more water will penetrate our soil, and that's what we want. So that it doesn't run off; it stays here. Eventually goes down to where it needs to.
And I love that we can have our vision on our plot of land, and we are not dependent on the next guy as a farmer or whatever their choices are. That we can heal the land that we have in our possession, that we are stewards of this land, and that we can, make a difference on the part that we're given, and that we don't have to think, oh, how can they, affect it, that we can affect our land and our space. And so I think it's very empowering. I think if each person were to lean in and say, what can I do? Like, what is my part? Not what's keeping me from it or what are all the influences, but like our part is we are passionate about the chickens, we are passionate about the pigs, and we are passionate about the land that we are given. And I think if each of us could just really lean into that, then I think we could just see a lot of change in the world for the good, that it's not about all the influences around us that are difficult but that, this is our part. So I think
just do what you can empowering. Do. Yeah, no, that's so great. And if we get to the place where we can have more demand for this, then you guys directly, if more people are buying this, then you can buy or lease more land around you and affect more land.
That's exactly right.
Yep, we are not in a land shortage. We can definitely be able to get a hold of that and create more.
Anyone's driven through West Texas? No, there's no land shortage. There's just there's actually just a huge problem with mismanagement of land. You can see rows and rows of crops, all kinds of stuff. They're putting up all those wind turbines that seem like they are kind of a scam. It's like government subsidized wind farms that don't really ever pay themselves back. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. Jessica and Austin seem to have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, I can't intelligently speak about it. I have my own thoughts. I don't see the payoff in it, but they're probably down there in their part of the country. There's a lot more. They're a little south of us, and so there's a lot more of that than there are up here. But it's
anyway, just a monocrop. You see the monocrop.
Yep.
We do.
Yeah, just next door we see it constantly, and we see the topsoil being blown away. We see just the soil depletion, and we see the effects of that, that they're constantly having to manage the weeds or having to manage this or and just, you can feel the heaviness of that is not what was intended when you think of, the holistic approach, or just the creation, how I believe God created it, that all of it can be life-giving, and you don't have to rip it out, and you don't have to take that aggressive approach. You can actually heal, you can actually see beauty in life, and you can see thriving, and then you can benefit from that. And so that monocropping, literally our fence is divided by the monocropping, the traditional conventional approach, and then you have ours. And so, and that's his choice, and that's totally fine. But we also get to see life, and we get to see lack of life. We get to see literally death. It's just so depleted of all that should be, void of all nutrients. So,
well, they're constantly having to add things to it. Constantly having to add amendments to the soil to get that to get the crops to grow right. And so, we were very fortunate and very passionate about using animals to use the animals to add the amendments to the soil that we need, nitrogen and different things like that, disturbance and different things. So, you can drive by and you can look teeming with life or not, and having to add constant things about it. So it's pretty interesting.
Yes. And we should talk about, well, your family for one, feeding your family, taste, nutrition. The whole other side of things is now we get to regenerate the land, and we get to eat some delicious food as well.
Absolutely.
I'll be honest. Our first experience years ago when we did our first pasture chicken, and I cooked our first one, I was so excited, and the texture, the flavor, the satiation, the entire experience. And one of my good friends, she purchased some. She's got a really big family, I think 5 kids, and her brother came over. Anyways, they had, I think, 4 adults, 5 kids there, and they cooked 1 chicken. It was like a 5-pound chicken. And she was shocked. She sent me a text after and said, I was shocked. We fed everybody and had chicken left over. She said it was just mind-blowing to see. And that goes to show, like, a lot of people, even us, struggled with the cost, it costs more. Well, initially, perhaps, at first sight, it does cost more. You eat less, you're healing your body. I mean, just the entire benefit that comes from that, instead of focusing on that initial cost, to see that by paying that, you're actually getting benefits from all the way around.
I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, if you have proper nutrients, I mean, there's a whole book about it, the Dorito effect. I interviewed Mark Schatzker talking about this whole concept of the amount of nutrients in food, how that flavor, how that affects flavor, and how you can have greater satiety even because you're getting the full vitamins and minerals instead of just sort of this like watery chicken breast. And even cost too. Yes. If you're just buying chicken breasts, that's not natural either. You're not getting the full nutrient spectrum from the chicken, and you're paying more for just this product that people desire because it's lean or because it's just simple and easy and like kids will eat it because it's so bland. Right. And you're talking about using the whole chicken. This is the whole concept of nose to tail, is you can buy the whole chicken and use the whole thing and get all the nutrients and make bone broth and use the feet, use the head. Right? You can use it all.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so it's so wonderful. I'll throw an entire chicken in the morning, and it cooks anywhere from 12 to 24 hours. Some apple cider vinegar, the feet, the heads in there, whatever else I might want. And then it cooks the chicken. So now I have the meat for dinner. Plus I have the broth that I can save. We drink the broth. We cook with the broth. It's a good flavor. Like, our kids love to drink it. And so all the benefits that come from that. And then you can also reuse the carcass to make more broth, depending on what your needs are in the home. So it extends even more of your what you're paying for. And so now you don't have to buy bone broth. You don't have to do all of those extra things. Plus, you can cook multiple meals from the chicken that you cooked initially. Plus, you get all of that nutrients packed into the meat and the bone broth.
Right.
So it's just such a win-win all the way around. The flavor, the nutrients, all the benefits that you get from that.
Yeah, and we're saving all the heads, we're saving the feet. So we have, at Nose Tail, we have bundles you can buy. You can buy, pre-made broth. You can buy just the heads and the feet and the bone, the carcass. We even have a primal broth where we have all the leftovers from even the cutting when we butcher the cattle, we have the bone dust even, or this just like powdered bone from the saw and all the trimmings, and we get all the heads and the feet of the chickens, the carcasses. We get the bone, like marrow bones. We get all the collagen from the chickens. We get all the marrow from the bones, and then we even get the calcium from that bone dust. And man, that stuff, I think that's going to be a good one for us. But just back to your family, to close this out, I just love kind of connecting it back to, decisions you make for your family are kind of the most important, right? It's like, you can talk all you want, but this is what you believe in. This is what you're feeding your children. Like you're not going to feed them bad food. Like you, and so I guess maybe you could just talk about just your family nutrition.
Absolutely, yeah. One of our greatest things is our kids know exactly where their food came from. It came from there, right out the back door, And so they understand that, and so getting to feed our family the food that we produce here, that we know exactly what went into it, we know how it was cared for, and it's surpassed. It's our standard of quality, which is pretty daggum high, I'm not gonna lie. And so we feed our children that, and they're all about it. They love it. They know where it came from, and which makes us feel good. It allows us to rest easy at night, knowing that our family's getting the highest quality food, and it's going to feed their body and not steal nutrients from it. And so we want to make sure that we give them all that they need to grow and get big. So,
well, and I just think continually the next generation, and educating and, equipping the next generation that it's not, there's that saying, you are what you eat. And we believe you are what your food eats. And so, getting to educate them, getting to come alongside for them to explore and realize that it's not just what the chickens, like us eating the chickens, it's where the food of the chickens comes from too. Right. And so even just getting to talk to them about that whole process and really where our country has come in the farming and providing of the food, and just the compromise at that level, and getting to speak into them that we can create the change we seek. And I think that begins in every home. And so we're just super passionate about just allowing them to see the entire process. And we are so blessed and lucky and excited to have a community that also supports that. So like when we have our butcher days for our chickens, we have 15 to 20 people out here. We have kids out here that are able to express themselves and be a part of the process, appropriately, obviously. But for them to be able to connect with that and realize that the life of the food we eat begins at the seed of the feed that we feed them. And so when we begin to look at breaking down all of that perhaps, supporting all of these big pharma, big, productions, maybe if we begin local, maybe if we begin knowing our producers again and reconnecting at that level. And so in our home, that's a lot of what we're passionate about is let's begin that connection, that community, and really live from that space that stays connected. And also that we don't have to be responsible to be our garden, our beef, our all of that, but we can connect with those that are passionate about that, so that we can exchange our gifts in the world, and we can exchange and really have the best life supported, not by doing everything, but about living into what we're called to do. And then, going from there. So community and all of that. So, yeah.
We can trade for some beef from Austin and Jessica down the street.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know if it does take a lot of chickens for one beef, though.
Yes, it does.
It is. Well, you got to be fair, It takes a lot to raise that big old beef.
1-to-1 doesn't work.
No.
Yeah. All right. I forgot about your butcher days. That's so cool. I remember you telling me about that, how it's a community process and you let everyone in. And I always talk about this, how we're disconnected. Why vegans exist is because we're so disconnected and people don't know how their food's produced and they don't understand death. Sure. And that, back in the day, people, children might experience death before they could even talk, right? Before they could even speak, they've seen animals die for their food and they understand it. And that's what you're trying to continue. And yes, it's appropriate. I mean, they're not being splattered with blood or anything, but they're part of it. Maybe just tell me a little more about how they're part of it, the neighborhood.
Yeah, absolutely. We have, like Melissa said, we have about 15 or 20 that show up, and some of those are kids and different things. And so we might have the kids helping, transport chickens from the different cold water. Because once a chicken is processed, it needs to sit in well water cold, and then it needs to go to an ice bath. And so they can help on those little things like that. So they're a part of the process. They're out there, they're observing, they ask questions, and so we're available to answer all those questions. And everybody that's there has, been there multiple times, and so they can do the same thing. And so, I think we've had up to like 8 or 10 kids here at once that are just part of the families that have showed up to help us. And so they're a part of it, and to them it's not strange, it's not strange to them. This is a chicken that is, it's my food, and so it's not strange to them that this chicken is going to be processed and turned into food, and it's not bad, it's not squeamish. You don't have to be squeamish about it. It's just a process of going from being a live chicken to being table food, and so. It's a good process, and it's something that we, like you said, we at one point in time we were connected with, and I think as Americans we have become disconnected with that, and we've even had several friends that were teeter-tottering on the vegan side of things, but at one point in time in their lives because they were disconnected, and so now that they've become more connected, they understand it better, and that's not really a thing for them, and so it's pretty fascinating to be a part of it and to have other people be a part of it and to build that community around, food, really.
Well, and the biggest thing I would speak to Butcher Day and why I think it's such a pivotal experience, not even like to experience, but to validate, is that it is not easy. It's not an easy day. Like taking the life is not easy, but I think that's where the honor, and for me, like death is a finality that allows you to realize there was a purpose in that life, and the purpose was to, provide it all a good life, to love it well, and all of those things. And therefore, this sacrifice is intended for a purpose for us. And I think when that mindset shifted for me, and even in inviting and allowing people to be a part of the butcher process, because obviously we have the logistic side that we have to keep it kosher, we have to keep it clean and sanitized. And so as far as like the logistic side behind the scenes, we have the equipment and we have all of that in place to verify and make sure that our product is good and sanitized in the best, highest quality we can, while also creating an environment that allows people to experience that connection and know that the life was intended for a purpose, and that through the process and the way we do it, oh my gosh, I love it that we have the opportunity to butcher on site, so on our property, so it reduces the stress level for the animal, which increases the quality and the flavor that we get to eat. It also, the process that we use to actually terminate them and to go through to actually have a packaged, beautiful, amazing product is so respectful and honorable to how it's intended to be. So just some of those things, which is why we are able to allow kids and different people to come in and experience that while maintaining the quality of, disinfecting and sanitizing and all of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love that. We're growing healthy, nutritious people that aren't going to be vegan. They're not going to get brainwashed. They're going to understand the healthy food that they've built their bodies on and understand the whole process and just experience the delicious taste too. It's been great coming to your house to eat the delicious products. And wow, I'm so glad that we're just able to get them out to people, and we can get them out nationwide. And you can order from us, or you can just find your own local people. You do not have to order from Nose to Tail. There's no reason that you need to get it from us. I mean, you can support our operation and all that, but if you have a local regenerative ranch that you can get it from them, right? That's, save the shipping costs. Right. But that's about it. Thank you so much for being a part of this. I can't wait to come back. We'll have, maybe I'll be a part of the Butcher Day. when I can,
Sure.
Yes.
come on the right day. And
Sure.
well, just thanks for doing what you guys do.
Thank you for just coming alongside. I think it's wonderful when consumers, producers, and all that between can come together with a like-minded mission of just having good food with high quality, nutrients. So I appreciate you and everybody that's listening.
All right. Well, let's get it going. Thanks so much. And I'll see you soon.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks.
Bye.
And that's it. Thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks for sharing with a friend, giving a review on the iTunes or podcast app, getting all your meat at nosetotail.org delivered to you. We got the biltong, the seasonings, body care, and the fresh meat. Also, sapien.org. Go there, join the newsletter, join the program if you want to lose weight and get healthy with Dr. Gary, and the tribe for all the bonus features, private Zoom calls, show notes, private community. That's the tribe at sapien.org. All right, guys, I'll see you next week.